To this now, the countdown to next year's national elections has begun. Today, the Independent Electoral Commission announced it's ready for this weekend's voter registration. The IEC is urging South Africans to register and make their mark during the polls. Let's speak now to Deputy Chief Electoral Officer Masego Sheburi. Mr. Sheburi, thank you very much for your time here on ENCA. Just first of all, I think a lot of people forget something. Once you've registered, right, before we talk about how ready you are for this weekend, there's also the voters' roll that people need to look out for. I think a lot of people forget about that. The fact that once the election date is announced and is gazetted, you have to check to see if you are registered, because by 5 p.m. that day, if you're not, you can't register.
Ahead of each election, you are correct. The Commission compiles a voters' roll which gets certified by the Chief Electoral Officer. And that voters' roll will be the roll that will be used for an election. If the President formally declares the date of election on that day at midnight, the voters' roll closes, meaning that everyone who had not yet registered at that point will not be able to contest in the coming election. So that is correct.
Tell me something, Mr. Sheburi. What happened during the dry runs that made people uneasy about whether or not you would be ready this weekend? Some people experiencing talking about the experience of technical glitches.
A dry run is just a test of our systems. It's good practice to do test of any new technology that you introduce. We held a dry run on the 28th of October. Specifically to pick up any shortcomings on our environment, in our system, in our infrastructure. If we had not done that, we would have only picked up those difficulties on the voter registration date. We've picked up two critical shortcomings that we've been able to ameliorate, and come the registration week this week, we will be all systems go. So we've replaced the routers where we needed to replace them. We have optimized our code on the database, and we think we are ready for the registration weekend.
All right, so your target is to get 1 million more people to register to vote. We were at around 26 million or just over 26 million the last time. Do you think you'll be able to reach that by the time we vote?
Stats SA tells us that there are 62 million South Africans, and out of those, 39 million are age eligible, meaning they are 18 years and above. So our purpose, our goal is to narrow the gap between the 39 million age eligible and the 26 million age eligible. If we breach the million mark, we will be very happy, but our intention is to garner as many of those persons who are as yet unregistered as is possible. We are putting resources to anticipate a flood, and we hope that indeed we realize a flood over this coming registration event.
And I can imagine that you're concerned. I mean, that gap is, about 13 million people who haven't registered to vote, besides, the debate around whether or not they actually show up to vote, just to register to vote. I'm sure you're concerned. Maybe let me give you an opportunity to try and convince people to register, at least.
Indeed, 13 million people are a lot of people who remain outside the formal decision-making structures of their country. And if you consider 13 million people, they are almost equivalent to the number of persons that participated in the last local government election. So if a party or a candidate can convince those people to register and to vote, we have a new party that can reckon and contest seriously for state power. For those who are yet unregistered, we ask that they present themselves either at the voting station or taking advantage of our online portal to register, so that when they change their mind and they have a party that resonates with their expectations, they are at least able to do so. So registering, even if you don't intend to vote, is still a good start, so that once you make up your mind, you are able to participate, because as we said, you are unable to participate if you have not been registered on the voters roll.
And of the 13 million, Mr. Sheburi, there could be those who, for instance, don't have access to things such as ID documents, and that, means that you cannot register to vote and you cannot vote even. What are your conversations, if any at all, with the Home Affairs Department? I know that at some point they should be opening their offices for longer hours if they haven't already, especially going towards the end of this week where you'll have registrations happening in terms of operating for longer hours, etc., and making sure people have the documents they need.
In fact, from last weekend, the Home Affairs has opened their offices to call on persons who have applied for ID documents and have not collected them to come forward and collect them. Over the 18th and the 19th, they will also match our operating hours from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon to enable persons to collect their ID books or to get issued with new temporary identification certificates on the day so that they can take advantage of the registration registration opportunities at 23,300 sites across the country.
All right. And then, maybe let's talk about the fact that the matriculants who are currently writing, a lot of them will be turning 18 this year if they haven't already. I know I spoke to Elijah Mhlanga yesterday saying that you've been having meetings with the Department of Basic Education around this. They're writing, so it's going to be quite tricky to convince them to leave their books to go register to vote. Are you promising no long queues, or will there be special queues for the matriculants?
Two things. We have a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Education. Among the key things that we do with it is that we go into schools and register all the learners that are 16 and above. We register them, but they can only vote if they've attained the age of majority on the date of election. So we are happy that we've done work at schools. For matriculants who can't go to a voting station, there's an opportunity for them to go online when they have their 5-10 minutes break from study, to go online and register themselves as voters on our online portal. So there are various modalities. People don't necessarily have to go to a voting station. If they have a smart device and if they have data, they can go on our portal and register themselves.
All right, Mr. Sheburi, thank you so much for your time and good luck and all the best for this weekend. Do you know at all, have you heard anything about when this announcement is going to happen, at least about the date?
The commissioner started consultation with the presidency, but the date is yet to be determined. Our view is that the date can be made known even though it is not proclaimed lawfully, so that all of us work towards a common goal.
All right. Deputy Chief Electoral Officer Masego Sheburi speaking to us there. This weekend is voter registration weekend. So if you are not registered to vote, go out there to register. But also if you've moved to another area, for instance, and you want to vote there come next year's national government elections, you can then go to a school near you or even go online to register to vote in that particular area.